computer. Okay, we're recording and we're live in 9.
But we have to click go live right here, right?
We do have to click go live right there. And the hope is that we're going to see the countdown there too.
I've done it.
And I can share it from your Facebook, right?
Yeah, so once we're in, then you can go to the Mindset Squared Facebook page and share it from there. We are live now, so once we're in, there we go. That's you I'm talking to. Anybody who might be on. Usually no one's that punctual, but I'm going to go share it also.
So if I leave this window, it won't cut me off or anything, right?
Nah, nope, just don't pick your nose just because you can't see yourself, we can still see you.
Okay, got you. I've gotten.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's annoying when you're the owner of multiple pages. Like Steph, you probably know this too. It's that you can't share from the computer to the thing. I can't keep up with how to do these things.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Join us. Okay. Woo! Just gotta tag Matt in this. I get so amped, you guys. I'm so excited right now.
I'm just trying to share it from the Kunjani one really quick.
It should let you. Is it letting you?
I'm looking. Yes.
Location and post. Perfect. Done on my page. Yeah, because you can only do that once you're actually live. You can't do it otherwise. Hey, I see that there are people in here. If you're here, you got to say hi. You've got to engage with us. We're excited for your existence. Yoga Bob is on. Hello, Yoga Bob.
Hey, Bob.
I can't call him Bob. He's Yoga Bob.
I call him Bob.
That's fine. I'm just saying that to me, he is Yoga Bob. Hello, Danielle Slew, a future podcast guest as well one day. Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of Mindset Squared. This is our no BS roundtable discussion exploring life's positive solutions. So my math professor husband over here, I thought I had the most genius idea of naming the podcast Mindset Squared. First of all, I didn't because somebody else already has the name, but I was too far in by the time I noticed. So I was like, that's fine, we're keeping it. And they're not very active, so we're just gonna take it over. And I was like, yeah, because growth mindset, exponential growth, this is great. And he was like, yeah, and also if you square a positive number or a negative number, you get a positive result. And I was like, oh shoot, drop the mic. So here we are. And I'm super stoked to have you two. Today we're talking about perseverance and dreams. And I will tell you, actually, this was kind of cool. When I went to start outlining this podcast, when I thought of it a few weeks ago, I had actually thought about this already a few years ago. I had an idea to do something kind of mindset, personal development type stuff related. And so I took the outline from that previous notebook that I created and just copied and pasted it over and started working on it. And I just noticed when I printed my notes this morning that I made the original notes on Friday, June 28th, 2019. So, I mean, that was almost a full year ago. And you guys were both listed as potential guests on near the top of the list. So this was like, we've been manifesting this.
Us here.
Yes, I manifested you here. Hi, Danielle. Nice to see you. Thank you for checking in with us. So anybody who pops on, please feel free to engage, ask questions. We're here to have a nice discussion, and you're hopefully going to feel some inspiration from these two ladies. I want to do a quick intro about the two of you. So I'm going to start with Stephanie. Stephanie, one of our favorite humans here in Naples. She is co-owner of Kunjani Craft Coffee and Art Gallery over, if you are local, it's on Seagate Drive. If you haven't been there, I don't know. If you're local and you haven't been there, whenever I meet someone who hasn't been there, I'm like, I don't understand. What rock do you live under here in Naples? Get your butt to Kunjani right now. They are just the most vibey, coolest atmosphere, most delicious coffee. Their motto is lifting each other up with love. So you can really feel that there. Everybody who goes, they always say, what should I get? And I'm like, get whatever you normally get somewhere else, but get it there, and then it'll be the best of that you've ever had. And that's always the case. So that's always cool. But Steph, so you're co-owner of Kunjani with your mom, and you'll get into that story a little bit, but the two of you from Zimbabwe originally. And I was actually just reflecting this morning on the first time you and I actually met. I was interviewing you. You remember?
Yeah, I actually saw the post that we posted of that article just randomly the other day, and it reminded me of that day. And I can't believe everything that's happened since that interview. Amazing.
I know. That was crazy time. So basically, I was studying journalism at Florida Gulf Coast University at FGCU at the time, and feature writing was my favorite. And I went into Kunjani on their 6th day of being open, and I was like, this place is so cool, and they have such a cool story. And I ended up writing, it was the one article I ever wrote for the Naples Herald, and it was just an online newspaper at the time. I honestly don't know if they're still around. I haven't checked, but at the time, I know that it was a super successful article, and I was like, woo, we made it. And then anyway, I got connected to you too, and you've since become part of our family. So I'm stoked to hear about the dreams that you had for yourself and growing up in Zimbabwe, in a politically oppressed country. I know we connected on that because my family is from Venezuela, where there's also much of that, and how you got out of that and how you persevered through it. So stoked for that. And keeping on the coffee vibes, Kayla and I, we used to work the prime 4:30 a.m. shift at Dunkin' Donuts.
I was talking to someone about that the other day, actually, like how because at that time I had 3 jobs. So I would do Dunkin' Donuts in the morning at 4:30 a.m. till about noon or 1. And then I'd go down to the mall and I'd work at Express. And then I went down to the food court, which was my 3rd job, in this little chicken spot. And I would work there until close. And some days I would work all 3 jobs, I think like 3-4 days a week. And it was like insane. And I was like, how did I even wake up at 4 a.m.? Because I lived right across the street from the Dunkin' Donuts. So I just woke up at 4 and got right over there. But I was like, how did I do that? Like, I don't even know how to do that. It's crazy.
But wait, you weren't just there doing that. What else were you doing besides working 3 jobs?
Also going to school, trying to become a rock star. A very ambitious kid.
So Kayla went to, sorry, say it again.
I said just really heavily involved in music. So I guess I was just trying to fund my dreams, really.
And at the time you were going to Berklee College of Music, which basically, I mean, internationally renowned school, fantastic. I mean, just to get in, you obviously have to have skill. But I've now since learned in my life that I know a lot of people who go to Berklee for a year or 2, make a lot of connections, and then they're like, this is expensive and I can't stay or whatever, and then they leave. Yeah. And I remember with you working that 4 a.m. shift, you're like making the donuts, which really means you're just unpacking the donuts. But anyway, you're like setting up for the day, and Kayla's just like belting it out like the whole time. And I just remember being like, first of all, I'm really lucky because I get like a personal concert. And second of all, I'm going to be like, you heard it here first in Dunkin' Donuts, freaking Cleveland Circle, back in the day when she makes it big, because I had no doubt. Anyway, Kayla now lives in Denver, Colorado, which is where she's originally from, correct?
Yeah, from Colorado Springs, which is like an hour from here, but yeah.
Okay. And she's making her singer-songwriter dreams come true. This girl, I swear, I don't know, it happened overnight, but I saw it coming, and she's killing it. So I look forward to hearing more about that. I'm going to pop in here, and just in case you're surprised to hear, Stephanie, we've got a couple comments saying that Kunjani is the cat's pajamas. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, you got to come visit us, Kayla. There's stuff here for you. There's good coffee. I was telling you about our friends at the Sugar Shack that you've got to come over and do a.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely need to make my way down there. I've been wanting to go for a while now, so hopefully when this whole thing clears up, I can make it.
We got a couch for you right there. It's a very comfortable one, actually.
It looks comfy.
It is.
I will take you up on that, for real.
Woo. All right, so let's do a really quick check-in with how everybody is feeling, especially now during this time. We were just before we went live checking in Kunjani for all our locals. They are open. They are drive-throughing at the moment. And they're trying to have a line like down Seagate. The elementary school isn't open. You're not making traffic for anybody. Just go line up, get your coffee, get your pastries. Steph, how are you feeling? How's everything been during this time?
It's been good, honestly. In the beginning, it was a little stressful just trying to make the right decision. We didn't know if we should close or stay open, but we ended up closing, and it actually worked out, I think, for the best for not only our employees, who got to have a little bit of a break, and season was really busy, and so we were all feeling a little burnt out. So everyone got to have a little break, and then for me personally, it was actually really nice because for the first time in over 4 years that we opened, I had a moment to, I guess, work on the business instead of working in the business, which was just such a blessing because there's so many things that I've been wanting to do, but there's just not been any time when you just are stuck behind the register or stuck behind the coffee machine. So for that reason, it was a huge blessing for us. And I think just opening back up slowly will be great as well. But yeah, other than that, just obviously stressful at times, but just trying to remember that, you know, it's bigger than just Kunjani closing or bigger than just us being stressed out at home, and just trying to take it for the good things that it's brought our way.
Yeah, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, Steph, you were supposed to be married, right? Like a few weeks ago. Yeah, and that's had to get pushed. So you're again another inspirational example of how to adapt in times when you need to. So I'm glad to hear that all is well there. And Kayla, how about you, my dear? Give us the quick skinny. How you feeling today? How you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, I'm kind of with Stephanie at first. You know, just a month or two ago when all this started, it was kind of confusing, and I braid hair. I do hair out of a salon to make money. So those closed, you know, and obviously people wanted to still make house calls and stuff, which was fine. But it really did give me a chance to kind of just take a break and focus on more personal goals that I had for myself. And just moving forward with my music, really being able to lock myself in the studio because I'm, you know, in it a lot during the week, but I was able to really commit like every day, all day, and just made some really great music. It all really turned out for the best. So at this point right now, I just feel really clear. I feel like I got the break that I needed to just kind of step back and look at things and ask myself what I want and really prioritize my time better too. You know, I've been like, oh, thank God for all this time we've just been given. But really, I think it's just a lesson for me to learn how to kind of manage my time because it's unlimited. We just kind of make it up in our mind that we only have so much. And so I'm just learning like, okay, this is what's important. You got to start making a schedule. You got to put things in the order that you need to get them done. And so yeah, it's just really helped me, honestly. This was the best thing that could have happened to me, I feel like. So I've been feeling pretty good.
I love to hear that. And I think when we talked last week, I sort of said to you, like, I feel very much the same way as you, but I also, you don't want to be tone deaf, right? Like you want to be sensitive to the fact that there's serious stuff going on. There's some real uncertainty and fear and anxiety, and that's all very valid and people need to feel that stuff. But ultimately there's so much opportunity. And I did the same thing as you. I was like, we have all this time. I'm going to do all of the things. And like cue to 7 p.m. and I'm like on my like 4th slice of pizza. And I'm like, what's happening right now? Like I haven't done anything today. This is bad. So, working through some of that, but let's jump right in here. So perseverance, I feel like I'm kind of anybody who knows me knows I'm big on grammar. I'm big on speaking correctly, and I've found that perseverance and persistence tend to get confused sometimes. But I did want to actually start with the definition of perseverance, which uses the word persistence is in the definition. I thought that made sense because they're definitely related. But basically, when we look at perseverance, the dictionary says, persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. So I'm inspired by both of you that you've done that in your own ways. And I think that I'd like to believe everybody has dreams. And I think a lot of the time people get so caught up on the how am I going to do it, or this seems way too hard. This podcast is a great example. I've thought about it for a long, long time and keep talking myself out of it. How do you just do a thing that you just want to do it? If you have a dream, go forth and do it. But then all these obstacles get in the way. And so, I don't know, let's start with, actually one question about perseverance would be like, do you guys have you considered yourselves persevering to people? You know, have you ever stopped to think like, man, I've been through some stuff, but like, I have to keep going and I'm so grateful that I have that quality? Or do you kind of just do it because like that's all you know? And so who wants to take that first? Feel free. Somebody.
I'll go.
Go for it.
I think I've just only ever known perseverance because of the example my mom set for me. You know, she raised my brothers and sisters and I, you know, all on her own. There's 5 of us. And so I can't imagine the obstacles she came across, you know, even the ones that I didn't see when I was younger. Just being a single mother alone and having to look out for her children and also having to make her dreams come true, you know, not being able to be like, I'm still a woman, I'm still my own person, but I have to be a mom too. I've just always seen her persevere. I've always seen her just kind of push through when things were really, really, really tough for us. And so that's all I ever saw, was a way of, I just always saw a woman making her way out of situations. And so I think I just grew up with that mindset that really nothing is impossible. Not being naive to the fact that real life is definitely happening around you, but really your mindset is what determines how you're going to move forward. And so I've just always grown up seeing her work so hard. And same with my older sister, she really took after my mom as well. So I had a great example set for me. And I think I've just lived my life based off of what I've seen. And then just having the burning desire that I have for music, I've never really seen any other way than to just push through even when shit gets really tough. It's like, well, this is just a part of the journey. And so you just, yeah, I think it's just always been in me.
Love.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's my story is honestly very similar, just with how I had such a good example from my mom as well, and my mom and my stepdad actually. And I've been really blessed with parents that just make things happen. People ask us all the time, like, do you know, if you have an idea, how long does it take, or do you procrastinate, or you push things away? And honestly, in my family, all I've known is if you want to do something, just make it happen. And that's sort of what happened with Kunjani. It happened very quickly, and we just made it happen. And I think I've only ever known that, just what Kayla was saying as well. I've only ever had that example of just push through, just work hard, and just, you know, make what you're trying to do a reality, and also not being naive to, you know, to your life and to experiences happening around you, but just, I think also just having the faith and conviction that you can do it. Actually, you can. But at the same time, I think Melly, you and I are similar to this. Sometimes I get so in my head, and the fear of failure and fear of something not being 100% or perfect stops me a little bit. But then I'm like, just stop, just go ahead and just start. And then seems to happen quite quickly after that.
In either of your journeys toward your goal, and maybe we never ever reach our goal, or we keep accumulating goals, can you think of a moment where when we're talking about perseverance, and there are all these obstacles and they come up, and you just figure them out, you just keep going, and can you think of maybe one in particular where you came up against an obstacle and you were just like, there's no way, whether it was a financial obstacle or if it was an organizational or a personnel or I don't know the people, I don't have the connection in order to make it around that next corner to that next event or that next milestone? Or was there something that you came up against that really stopped you in your tracks for more than usual, longer than usual? And then how do you wrestle with that? I know that when I come up against a problem like that, I sit my ass on the floor and I stare at it. And I stare and I stare and I stare until I just kind of relax my mind until I don't know where the idea comes from, but I get a little glimmer of an idea maybe, and then I try to run with that. Or how have either one of you or both of you sort of wrestled with those bigger obstacles?
For us, whenever we wanted to open Kunjani, we actually got delayed by the city of Naples and the county for just minor code things, like the counters were, I don't know, I think like 2 inches too low, or one door had to open a little bit more, and so we were almost ready to open, and suddenly they came and they put like these big red signs on the door, and just essentially shut us down. And for us, that was so tough, because obviously we had invested so much time, money, energy, tears into getting open by a specific date. And now we had this obstacle and this, force that we couldn't control. This is so funny to say, but in Zimbabwe, I mean, it's a third world country. If someone comes and puts a sign on your door, you kind of just say, well, how much is this going to cost to, bypass this? And obviously you can't do that here. Well, you can't do that in other places maybe, but here in Naples we couldn't. And we didn't have any connections that we could call and say, hey, please, like, can you help us with this? And so that was so tough, because we were already paying a couple employees at that point. We were ready, like, set to open, and we got closed for, I think, 3 months, at that point. Whoa. And that was so tough, because we had money going out and nothing coming in, and no way of figuring it out. And so at that point, that was really tough, because we just sort of had to sit down, and faith is huge in my family and in Kunjani. And so we sort of had to lean on our faith and just trust that we couldn't control the situation. And we just sort of had to give the problem, to God, and just wait and see what happened. And then little things started happening, and we got someone in to fix the counter and extend the wall and all those things. And we were able to open in February, I guess, when we were meant to open. But at that point, just for me, I'm such a hands-on person, and I need to be, in control of things and fixing things myself. And at that point, just to have to relinquish control and be like, okay, this is out of our hands. Let's just wait and see. That was so tough. But it was a good lesson as well, because I think in any small business, and there's going to be things that come up that you have no idea how to solve. And you just have to either find someone that knows how to solve it and actually ask for help, or just hope that something will happen.
Keep trying things, like spaghetti against the wall, right. Something will stick. I use that all the time. It's fine. Kayla, do you have anything that comes to mind in particular for you?
Yeah, I feel like all the time, honestly, in music, I feel like I feel like things are just always coming up, that it's like, whether it has to do with, for example, there was a song that I had helped write back in, I don't know, maybe June or something. And I wasn't the only writer on it. So when there's other people involved, obviously it's everybody's record. It's not just yours. So I was helping write this song. I ended up deciding that I wanted the song, but the original producers of the song wanted to shop the song to other, like, bigger artists, which is fair, and then if it gets placed, I get a check. So that was cool. But at that point, I was already set on the song being mine, and my team and I kind of planned around pushing the song forward. Like, this is the one we're going to go with. I even had, the radio station here involved. And so when I got a call that so-and-so wanted the song, it kind of just snatched the plan right from under our feet. And it sucks, especially with music, when you think you've, like, got the one and you're like, oh, this is it, because, like, each song is always an opportunity. And so you just feel like this is it, this is the one, and then someone kind of takes it from you. You're just back at square one again, especially because a lot of time and energy goes into making just one song. And but I kind of just waited it out. I had to just say, if it's for me, then it's for me, and if it's not, then it's okay. And a couple months later, the song came back, and I got it, and it got on the radio, and then I went to like 4 different states and got to push it to all these other radio stations, and so it was a huge deal. And it ended up working out for the best. But I think one of the lessons that I've learned that I'm trying to just remember every day is that anything that happens to me is the best possible thing that can happen, because the universe is working to better itself. And since we're all a part of that, none of us are going to be held back, even if it seems like that for a moment. Just like with this COVID BS and the quarantine, it seems like we're all being held back, or like we're all being put on pause, but really we just have to look at it from a different perspective and find out what else can be done in this time to get us ready. So You know, and things with family too. A lot of family issues tend to come up, and I'm very heavily, you know, involved in my family, and I tend to take a lot of my family's problems on as my own. So when they're going through things, a lot of times I have to remember not to let that stall my process in life. And yeah, there's always things I feel like that come up. I just have to, like, you know, have faith that everything's gonna work out, because it usually almost always does. Like, how many times are we always like, God, this was the best thing ever, and I didn't even know it at the time, you know? Like, it just always works out. So you just kind of have to let things be as they are.
So it sounds like faith for you, whether that's you choose to, you know, I was raised in a Catholic family, and so religion was a big thing for us. And then as I grew up, I started to learn that maybe I sort of felt a little more connected with the idea of the universe versus God. And then, like, you start to hear faith, and then some people, like, that triggers them. And for a while for me, I was like, faith was like only a thing that was related to God, and it's not. God can be the universe. It can be synonymous with, it can be Buddha, it can be whatever the hell you want it to be. Just like, have faith in a thing that you know is helping pull you forward. I think for me has been, you know, it's that idea that there's something bigger than you, that you may or may not understand, and really we don't, none of us understand it.
Right.
But Kayla, while I have you there, and I sort of mentioned this earlier, but you know, when we worked at Dunkin' together, I really did feel like I just knew, I was like, this girl's gonna make it someday. And so I want to hear a little bit of your story on that. And not only do I want to hear I know that you moved back to Denver at some point. You don't have to get into all the nitty gritty, but you moved back, from what I understand, you were working a 9 to 5, and then one day you were just like, what am I doing? And you just left, and you were like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna make my dreams come true. So I want to hear that, but then I also, like, even back in our Dunkin' days, or even as a kid when you were dreaming this, because a lot of kids dream to be rock stars, right? Like, and a lot of people have a lot serious talent. So do you feel like you've manifested this? Like, do you feel like you knew back then, you had, like, you knew in your gut, I am going to make it. I know it. I don't know how, but I'm going to. Or were you just like, I hope, or, you know, let's go backwards a little bit and then bring us to now.
Yeah. I don't know what it was in what you just said, but I've always told people, yeah, I always knew, but I don't know, something you just said really, like, kind of gave me chills, because I've never known anything other than I've just always seen it. I have always seen it. It's crazy. Ever since I was a kid, and remembering, like, when I first was so passionate about wanting to be on stage, and then finally getting on stage for the first time, and it was awful, you know, but even then knowing, like, okay, I don't know what this means, but I really want to do this, so I'm gonna be better at it. But ever since I can remember, this was always my reality. And so I think I really thank God for giving me such a clear vision, because it's allowed me to not really accept no. It's allowed me to, you know, when you just know something is meant for you, you don't let what other people say or what else is happening around you affect the goal, affect the vision. And yeah, I just, the older I got, the more I realized it was in my hands to make it happen. You know, I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, this is going to happen because this is just what I want. And, you know, things are going to fall into place. I'm going to meet a producer and become famous, right? It's just weird things you have in your head that are going to happen. And the older I got, I realized I have to make this happen. These are things that I have to do this. And so I just started taking little steps. You know, I got around people who did the same thing as me. You know, I got around a lot of musical people, a lot of creative people, writers, artists, photographers, rappers, people who made music, whatever. I just got into a creative world. And a lot of that happened when I moved to Boston and attended Berklee. Because out in Colorado, there's not a huge music scene. So I was a really big fish. And then I got to Boston, out to the East Coast, where it's just all art, and I became this small, and I was like, okay, I have a lot to learn. But it was a blessing, because seeing so many people passionate about the same thing I was, it really lit a fire in me. And even then, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I'm going to wake up every day and make music, because that's what I really love to do. And we'll see what happens. And I think just naturally constantly having that vision in my mind and taking little steps forward, I just was drawing closer and closer to, you know, to the goal. And there was never a day where I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I literally just have always wanted to do this. And there really was no other option. I'm sure I'm good at other things, but I wouldn't know because I'm like, this is all I've given my everything to. So
where you put your energy, things happen. It's obvious. So will you give us the quick version of the story of when you walked out of your job? I'm just so inspired by and that's like, I just think so many people need to hear any story out there about anybody who has the balls to walk out of their shitty 9-to-5 job that they hate, because I know too many people who don't do it and could.
It's scary. It's really scary. I think for me, I was at a really interesting place in my life because I had just put out a batch of music after going through a really, really terrible relationship with someone. And so I was just really at a dead end, what I felt like. And my job was great as far as the income. It was a field that I had absolutely no experience in, no passion for whatsoever, but I was making a really good check. And I truly didn't want to give that up, but I was just so unhappy. I was so unhappy, and I was heartbroken at the time too. So I didn't have anything left, honestly. And I remember driving to work, and I was in the parking lot, and I was like, okay, you just have to make a decision. You don't know what's going to happen, but if you go in there, you're going to leave 8 hours later and you're going to be sad again. And so it was kind of messed up how I did it. I just kind of sent my boss an email and then drove home. But I emailed him actually last year after 2 years of quitting, and I, sent an apology email and just said that I hope everything is well, because I did feel bad for how I left, but I did have to make that decision for myself. And even after I made it, it wasn't like the stars aligned, I had to figure out how to pay rent. I had to hustle my ass off. And I did in little ways, but I ended up getting a part-time job as a server. And that too was just like cutting into everything because they needed me there all the time. And I was only part-time. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I really have to be here. I have to be making music. I have to be doing shows. Like, I was so busy at the time. And so eventually I had to quit doing that. And I realized she's so cute.
We can't control the cat. We just can't.
Right. And I realized, I was like, okay, I could make my own money, actually. Like, I could make my own money. And I'm really good at hair. So I would just do friends' hair, whatever, put it up on Instagram. And I always told myself years ago, like, I'm going to find a way to, make the money I want to fund me as an artist, but not have to really answer to anybody. And it wasn't until, I really took the initiative to be like, okay, I'm going to start putting my hair work on Instagram. I'm going to see if this draws in business. And now I have a full hair business and I can work whenever I want. And I'm making a little money from my music too. And so it's just a very freeing space. I don't have to wake up and clock into anybody. I get to decide how much money you want to make this week, girl. Okay, this is what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's really cool just to become the boss of my own life. And it really did happen initially with that first day of just quitting that 9-to-5, which was so hard, but I was just unhappy and I didn't know what else to do, honestly. So I was just like, we'll see what happens.
I love it. I just have to note that the way that you just said, and I'm making a little money from my music, was very cute. It was very modest. And, Kayla's making it happen. She's on the radio and stuff. I mean, and all your music is just like the most fun, and your voice is just stupid. It makes me angry sometimes how good you are, but in the best way. So
thank you. Yeah, it's definitely freed up, my time to really dive into the music, which was the most important thing for me, because I realized the 10,000 hours rule. You have to put in so many hours for something, and I just couldn't have my time being taken up putting those hours into somebody else's company or somebody else's dream. It just didn't make sense to me. So even though it was hard, I had to do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Stephanie's story is different. I mean, you touched a little bit upon Kunjani, and we can finish up there if you want, but I'm really interested more so to hear about, as far as like growing up in Zimbabwe, and you don't have to get super into details. You can obviously get in as much as you want, but I remember some of the things that stuck with me that you shared were, you didn't always know if you were going to have electricity or hot water, and like in terms of safety was a concern there for sure. And I think I also remember you telling me that you didn't want to come here at first. Your friends and family were there, and so, I would imagine, my instinct tells me that I would probably feel kind of hopeless in that situation. I wouldn't know, I talk about feeling uncertain about what the future has to bring, not wanting to go, leaving everything behind. And I don't remember how old you were, but you can kind of share some of those things. Just give us what a perspective shift for you, right? Going from Zimbabwe to then being here, and you can just touch upon that a little bit for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was 16 when we left Zimbabwe, and that was in 2007. So things were, I didn't have a bad childhood or anything like that. I was super blessed, and my parents, made sure that we were always safe and taken care of. But that didn't mean that things weren't happening, outside of our walls or outside of our house. Growing up in a third world country, it's obviously completely different to, Naples. That was a huge culture shock for me. Especially in Zimbabwe, there's a really big sense of community, and, everyone essentially knows everyone. You go somewhere and you're going to see at least, 5 to 10 people that and their kids, and their parents and their grandparents, and everyone knows everyone, and everyone sort of takes care of everyone else. And so when things started getting bad in 2007, there was no food on the shelves regularly. And so my mom and her friends would sort of set up a barter system, and mom would find, eggs at one store, and she would say, okay, I found some eggs, they're here. And then her other friend would have found bread, and they would say, okay, well, there's bread at this store. And then they would trade, and we would have big dinners with different families, and we would call them bring and share. So whatever they were going to make that night, we had our dinner, and then they would bring it over and we would all share, because it was kind of tough to get a variety of ingredients. And so we grew up with a sense of community. And when we moved to Naples, we didn't know anyone. And I went straight into my junior year at Naples High. And I had never been to a co-ed school before. I went to an all-girls private school in Zimbabwe, and we wore uniforms, and we had very strict rules with hair, and we didn't wear makeup, and we didn't wear jewelry. And I came to, school here in Naples, and everyone had all these cool clothes on, and they had crazy hair and crazy makeup, and girls were running to the bathroom and applying makeup in between classes. And I was like, what is this? Why are we not just learning? Why are we not just at school? It was the craziest thing to me. And all the cars in the parking lot were amazing. And we didn't know anyone, and we didn't have, any idea of how we were going to make it or what we were going to do. But my parents made the decision to move for us and for our futures. So of course we knew that was the right decision, and we were so grateful. But at the same time, my brother and I would cry literally every single day. And I would literally come home from school and cry and sit on Facebook and see what my friends were doing back home, and just not even try and make the effort to make new friends here. I had one foot in Zimbabwe and one foot here, and I had the mindset that I was going to, as soon as I could leave, I was going to go back to my old life, and that was better. And everything that was going on here was it sucked compared to what my friends were doing back home. And so I think that made it quite challenging for me to, start a new life here, because I wouldn't let go of the old life back there. So that was a huge culture shock. And then coming here and going to Publix and seeing mountains and mountains of food, and 5 different types of bread based on how many grains you want or seeds you want, or maybe you don't want any grains, and we couldn't even buy bread. And that's just one example. And so it was just a lot. There was just so much stimulation, out in stores and at school, and we were used to more quiet and simple and family and community, and not that things mattered more, but when you can't buy stuff and you know your friends have lost their land or lost their farms or even lost their lives, and you come here and people are worrying about, I don't know, the wrong kind of seed on their bagel. It was a huge culture shock to us. But sorry, something else flying around. But yeah, I mean, we had to make it happen. We had no choice. We had to sort of band together. And I think that was sort of where the idea of Kunjani started. Not specifically, but we just knew that we needed to create a sense of community here. Like, you can go to Starbucks and you can get a coffee, but to actually go somewhere and feel welcome and feel like that is your home away from home, I think is what we were yearning for when we moved here. And so it just sort of happened that that's what we've created at Kunjani, and people have come that didn't know, other regulars that go there, and now those people are friends and they come together, and it is such a strong sense of community, and that's such a big part of who we are with our business. And I think the reason that happened is because we missed it so much when we moved here, that we wanted to just make it happen.
And you did make it happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Talk to me about some current big dreams. Are there any like real specific current, I'm stoked about this right now? You got anything, Kayla?
Yeah, so when I first started actually putting music like out there for people, once I finally had the resources, I started like recording myself in my bedroom and putting music up on SoundCloud and YouTube. I would make a lot of like EPs or small albums. And that was my way of creating a consistent body of work over like a 2-3 month time period, and then putting it out into the world. So I was doing a lot of that back in 2015, 2016, when things started to really get going for me out here. When I moved to Denver from Colorado Springs, I got to open up for Summer Jam out here in Denver, got stuff going with the radio. That's when I met my team. That's when I met my manager and my producer. So things got a little more serious, a little more professional, things started moving a little bit. And I wasn't just creating alone anymore. I was, who I consider to be like one of my best friends now is the producer that I work with. We make music together every day. So when you go from doing it alone to now you have a team of people who have an input and an opinion, there's a lot of things that have to be more planned out and stuff. So I wasn't able to make all these cool EPs and stuff, everything had to be more calculated and a little more thought out. And each release of each song, was a little more higher on the scale. So for about 2 years now, I've been wanting to make another EP, especially now that things are really picking up for me. It's my way to really introduce myself and to say, this is where I'm at in life. This is who I am as a young woman. This is what I've been going through. This is the music that I'm making. And so over this period of about 2 months, I've been just making really amazing, authentic music that I feel like represents me so well. And we decided to, put it out in, I think, June or July as an EP. So it's kind of like an album. Because all last year I was just releasing single after single every month with a video, which has been amazing. It's been building up, my YouTube subscribers. It's been building up my Instagram followers, my fans. It's just done everything that we wanted it to do. And now I finally get to put out this album, which says like, this is me. And it's just a huge deal for the people who have been supporting me, because it's going to give them a consistent body of work that really says like, this is your sound, this is who you are. And it's been something I've just been wanting to do for like 2 years now. So to have been so dedicated in the studio these past couple months, and to hear it coming together and to hear each song, and like, it feels so good. I feel like I'm about to give birth to a child. So I'm very, very excited about that, because we've just been working really hard. And, typically in the industry, what happens, an artist releases an album and then they go on tour. And so I'm just hoping that that my career is going to follow that same pattern. I'm hoping after this EP is released, God willing, everything, you know, starts clearing up soon in the next few months, I can get out and start performing again, and, you know, just hopefully get this snowball even bigger than it is. But it's just really nice to have invested so much of my time into this, and to finally see it come out feels really good. So
congratulations. That's super exciting.
Thank you.
When you have dreams like that, when you have a really specific goal, do you, I want to hear the answer to this from both of you. Do you guys consider yourselves goal setters? Like, I'm not a very good goal setter. I get an idea and I'm like, I want to do that thing, and I kind of just go do it. I don't like feel the need to go write it down and like, I'm going to have it happen by this date. Now, not that I don't see value in that. I do. I can see how that could help me be more structured and manage my time better. But from like a passionate, excited, creative standpoint, I find myself just like launching into things. And then when I have a dream or a goal and then I get it, like our gallery, for example, I was like, you know, we need a gallery. And Matt was like, no, we don't. I was like, yeah, we do. So we went and we made it happen. And honestly, like sometimes I'm standing in there and I'm looking around and I'm like, how did this happen? Like, I'm not sure it happened, but it opens, like, I know for me, it expands, like it's like your tunnel vision, because you're so focused on that thing. Now all of a sudden just like expands. And then it's like, now your perspective is so much more open, right? Like you're so much more aware of what you're capable of. And so I feel like that just like you keep leveling up, right? Is that what you feel like? Like it just kind of, my question got lost in there. I just got all excited, but I just like, are you guys goal setters? Do you guys specifically set goals, or do you kind of connect with what I'm saying on how that, it's almost like a ladder, right? Like you're moving up in that mindset, I guess. Steph, do you agree?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Even with Kunjani, sometimes I think for me, I get so focused on just making things happen and just doing what needs to be done. And then it sort of takes someone else having to say, wow, like, look around, look what you've done. And you sort of just have to pause and say, oh yeah, I mean, I guess we did this, and you know, this is amazing. But at the time, you're just so focused on making it happen. I don't really see, I mean, I have goals and I have dreams, but I don't, like you said, Melly, I don't sit there and, you know, make a list and a timeline and stuff. I sort of just, if I want to do something, I'm like, oh, we should do that. And my mom's the same way. My parents actually, even when we had the idea of Kunjani, Mom and I were just sitting having coffee one morning and we were like, oh, well, we should do this. We've always wanted to have a business together. Let's just do it. And then like almost, like I said, we got delayed at opening, but it was going to be like 2-month turnaround that we were going to be open. So we don't really take the time to, you know, not waste, but really prepare. Just sort of just dive right in and make it happen.
I found for me, kind of the same. It's like, I'm kind of just really moved by like passion. I'm pretty spontaneous. What I found that I'll make a plan, or I'll try to write out, or have a calendar with, you know, specific dates or things that I need to get done by. Sometimes that really helps me focus. Sometimes seeing it all makes me extremely anxious. And so what I've learned is, at least if I have a little bit of structure and then things move, you know, and don't go according to plan, at least I have something to kind of keep me on the right track. But I'm just like, I almost expect things to never happen how I want them to. So I'm just like, let me just go with it. It's all good. I'm just going to keep creating. I'm just going to keep these ideas moving and see what they do themselves. I try to make somewhat of a blueprint, but again, sometimes that makes me like so crazy anxious. I'm like, okay, I can't look at this. Like, I just have to let this move how it's supposed to move. And when people are always like, oh, what are your 5-year goals or your 5-year plans? I cringe. I'm like, oh, I don't know, because like, I don't know how life is going to move. Like, I know what I can tell you what I want to happen. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but yeah, I like to set goals, but I don't like to like, I don't know. It's weird.
I got you, girl. Stephanie, what about you? Do you have any big dreams at the moment? Any big goals?
Yes. So everyone keeps saying, you know, open another location. And I've been so closed to that idea because I don't want it to be like I don't want it to have like the franchise feel. I think if we were going to do another location, it needs to be opened by someone that gets it and someone that loves Kunjani as much as we do and, you know, really lives the mission. And so that's sort of something that I'm putting out into the universe at this point. I would love another space. Not that I want to personally run, but I would love to entrust someone else to, you know, take that on and make it their own, because I think for us, I need to keep reminding myself that Kunjani, you know, we have this as one of our mottos, but Kunjani is more than just a coffee shop. And because the coffee shop is the busiest side of our business, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to get out of that mindset and just, you know, instead of focusing on the day to day, but there's so much more that we can do and so many more people that we can help, you know, in Africa and even, you know, locally, people that come for a cup of coffee get so much more than that, which I think is amazing. But so, yeah, that's something that I want to, you know, start focusing on now that I have some of the time, which going back again to, you know, the quarantine and stuff, I've really been able to take a step back and sort of relinquish control to my employees who are amazing. Just quick shout out to them. They kill it. And so they need to be given the opportunity to do what they know how to do. And I think for me, that's a hard thing to do, but at the same time, it needs to happen. I mean, it's been over 4 years. It's time for me to focus on other things and just trust that Kunjani is in good hands, which it is. So yeah, that's something that's on my radar at this point. Just gonna have to see how that unfolds. But I think putting it out there is the first step for us.
I love that. I'm so excited. So something that I think I'm sort of trying to read between the lines here, it's something that's coming up is, and I say this all the time about me, I operate from my gut like 150% of the time. Like, I'm like, no, this is a good idea, it's a bad idea. And Matt is not that way. Matt is very logical and focused, and like, if this is the question ahead, then there are logical steps to get you there. Whereas I'm like, we don't need any of that. I'm telling you, this is gonna work. Yeah. But I also I feel like I have a really good awareness of like, first of all, is the idea a good one? I'm like, I check in with the gut. I can tell. I'm like, yep, gotta go forward with this. And I have to be excited about it. Like, it's gotta be the right mix of things. But then I can always tell if like I'm halfway in on it and I'm like, ooh, this was not, maybe this is not the right time or whatever. And then I can stop and be like, well, we'll just put that on the back burner and come back to it, which drives him crazy. But that's okay. He's stuck around. Which is
He's like, yep.
So that, would you guys agree with that? Like, do you both, it seems like you both go on your gut big time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I have a Matt. Like, my manager is he's so planned, he's so like organized, he's so like, I'm the artist, right? So of course my brain's going here all the time. And I'm like, what if we did this? This would be so cool. What if we shot a video in Jamaica? What if we XYZ? And he's like, hold up. Like, what does this look like? He's like, do you have a plan? What is it, and I think it's nice to have that balance in your life. Because I think the world works both ways. I definitely think the world works based off of, feeling and energy, but we do need structure and planning in our life. And so it is a balance. And I'm thankful to just kind of have that around me, have a little bit of structure, because it's my job to be creative. It's my job to have all of these great ideas and these big dreams. And then there's other people that God placed in my life where their job is to help me make that happen. But give me a little bit of structure in my life, because I'm a little bit of a wild child, but definitely a good person for sure, 100%.
You too, Steph. You and I have had this conversation for sure. Yeah. Okay, so I want to jump into some mindset tools that you can give people who, I think that when we, you think about just the words perseverance and dreams, I mean, let's just like kind of reverse engineer that for a second and focus one more time on the dream aspect of that. Again, I like to believe everybody has dreams, and maybe the road to get to that dream isn't as difficult as they think it's going to be. Maybe it is, who knows? I think either way, you have to be prepared to persevere. And I think, I love what you said, Kayla, about like, just basically, I know it's not going to go how I want it to go, but like, at least I know it's gonna happen however it's supposed to happen. So what I ask each guest to do for each episode is to come with a few different mindset tools that people can walk away from this thinking about, okay, I should try and incorporate that more in my life. Like our episode last week, if you haven't listened to it yet, the time management and routine, I was like using all those tips all week. And I'm not saying that I was fully successful just yet, but I'm working in the right direction. And then, so some like mindset tools, really psychological mindset tools. And then I would love if you've got anything concrete, you know, something that a book that you've read, or a podcast you always listen to, or something that you do all the time that really helps you stay in the mindset to push through. So Steph, why don't we start with you?
Yes. So for me, a big one is gratitude, actually. I think sometimes when I get stressed, and I've actually suffered from anxiety for a few years actually in my life. So sometimes I get so bogged down and I get so stuck in my head about, you know, what I can't control and what's not going right. And, you know, everything just seems so overwhelming that it takes me, you know, thinking about what actually is going well and what I am grateful for. And I actually make a list in that moment just to sort of break anyone with anxiety knows that it's like a constant thing going round and round in your head and it just doesn't stop. So you actually have to just stop it and break it. I actually make a physical list of the things that I'm grateful for in my head, and I say them over and over again. And that sort of, you know, snaps me out of it. And in addition to that, if I'm in a situation that doesn't seem like it's going well, I just sort of try and flip it around and see how I can make it not about me, but how I can turn it around and maybe try and do something for someone else. So not only being grateful for the things that I do have, but sort of getting out of myself and seeing how I can help someone else in that situation or in that moment. I think those are two big things that I do when I get in my head. And then physical things that I like to do is to just move my body, however that might be, if it's taking a yoga class or doing a HIIT workout or lifting some weights, I don't know, or just going for a run or just dancing it out to some awesome music, just literally dancing like a crazy person until I just get all this anxiety out physically. And I already mentioned about the list, but I do like to make actual to-do lists, even with very simple, easy to accomplish things, because I think the physical action of crossing something off a list, even if it's like make a list, cross that off the list. Yeah. That's like the first point, make a list, done. That just accomplishing one small thing feels so good. And actually sort of like make the lists very easy to accomplish, because then otherwise that's like a double-edged sword. If you make it too difficult, then you get overwhelmed about this list and all the things. So it's literally just like make a cup of tea, check. Very simple things.
I like your list. I'm going to start making those lists.
Go to the bathroom. You're one of those who writes down something you just did, right? You're like, oh, that wasn't on my list, but I did it. So
I did it already. You write it and cross it off.
Yep. I love it. Yeah, I do the same. And then also the double-edged sword of the to-do list. Why is it always that you have 15 things on the list and you get, 13 done, but you can only focus on the 2 that you didn't? You can't be like, man, look at all that shit I got done. You're like, you suck. How could you not get those last 2 things done? Like, why do we do that? Just gotta push through it. At least we know we're not alone in that. Kayla, was that it, Steph? Because that was great. Yeah. Okay. Go for it, Kayla.
What I love about that, Stephanie, is like a lot of it, I feel like just falls into a self-care bubble. Like, I feel like in order to make like what you want happen and to really persevere, you have to be taking care of yourself, and taking care of your mind and taking care of your body, and releasing physical energy is so real, like dancing or, yoga or running or whatever, making love, whatever, like release physical energy, take care of yourself. Like it's so important. And it's funny that you guys talked about lists, because literally yesterday I I was like going through my calendar, and I was like, you know, putting all of my responsibilities on the days of the week. And then I was like, what are my responsibilities today though? And for the first time in a long time, I wrote out a to-do list yesterday, and I was crossing them off, and it felt so good. I was like, did laundry, bam. Like it felt so good to be able to do that. And so it's just so funny that you talked about that. But yeah, I think gratitude is huge for me, like remaining grateful. And just there's just so much that we have and that we've done that many people didn't even get a chance to do before they passed away, or before they got into an awful accident that left them with nothing, or, you know, so I really try to remain grateful that I just get to wake up and make the choice to do what I want to do. I think that's so powerful, and I feel like that's just a life that everybody should get to experience one day, is like being able to wake up and say, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. Not, I can't do what I want because I have to go do something else. So I'm just so grateful. And I have to remind myself all the time that I wasn't once in this position. And so that's how I make the best of everything, because I'm like, I used to beg God to get me here. And so it's like, you're here now, so you absolutely have to make the most of it. And I think keeping a humble heart and staying grateful is definitely the key to making anything you want happen. And then I like to live with this, you know, mindset. I have this picture, it's this piece of artwork, and I don't even know where I got it. It's crazy. Like, I can point to everything in my room in my house and know exactly where I got it. But this one picture, I don't even know where I got it. I don't know where it came from. But all it says on it is all day, every day. And I used to put it up above my home studio to remind myself to be consistent, because the second you fall out of a routine, or the second you kind of like, you know, just get a little lazy, or, you know, that's when you notice things start to slow down, and then you're angry and you're like, why are things happening like this? So I look at that to remind myself, you know, obviously you need to take breaks, but all day, every day, like if you're committed to something, just commit to it and stay consistent. And, you know, over time, you just start to see things like changing. Concrete things, I would say I definitely love to read. I'm reading this book. It's right here, actually. It's called Zen, The Art of Happiness. And it's basically taught me, you know, kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier, to, you know, really look at everything as the best possible thing, even when it seems awful, because all it's doing is moving you forward. And I really love tools like that. I love books. I love, you know, talking with my friends. I love just like finding out ways to change my mind to think and see things differently than how I've grown up seeing them. So I love to read, and I love to meditate, like, you know, and not even just like, okay, 30 minutes today, I'm going to go here in this corner and meditate. Like, I'll do it for 5 minutes a day somewhere, you know, if I'm in the car, like I'll just turn off the car, put my phone aside, and just like stop, because I'm constantly going, I'm constantly on my phone, I'm constantly moving. And I've found so much power in just being still for a little. So I like to do that a lot. And yeah, I love to dance. I dance a lot too. And just like working out really helps.
You're inspiring in your dance moves. I try to move my hips like you, but it doesn't. I don't really got that. I try though. But you
actually, girl, you Venezuelan, you got it.
I was dancing while cooking the other day, and I was really getting into it, and I turned and Matt was recording me, and I was like, oh my God, it was like the most actually embarrassing. And if it was me, I probably would have been like doing it on a story or something. So I assumed that's what he was doing. He's like, no, it's just my phone. So my phone reminds me next year that this is what you were doing right now. For that. So it's fine. I have two things, actually a few things. We just hit an hour. Are you guys good for a few more minutes here though? Because I have a few more thoughts. One, something you just said, Kayla, I want Matt to touch upon something that he says to his students each semester, which is it's not that you have to be at school, but.
Oh yeah, you don't have to be here, you get to be here.
You get to.
My students ask me, is there an attendance policy? And I tell them, no, there's not an attendance. you signed up to be here. You're the one who chose to be here. I want to know if you have to come or not. I know this stuff already. But yeah, it's such a privilege, the opportunities that we have. And, you know, I went through academia and I've got a master's in applied mathematics, and I got to go to law school, and I got to go to a great undergraduate program, and Melissa got to study photography at Boston University in this really niche program, and you're getting to pursue your artistic endeavors. And Stephanie and her mom have saved their own future and created community. And God, when stuff gets bad, like I tell my students, I'm like, the next time, I remind them, and I don't remember what the actual statistic of the number of people on the planet who still cook over open flame, like in an enclosed environment, you know, where the smoke and is, you know, surrounding them, and it's insane. I really need to find that number again, but it's well into the double digits of a percentage of the world's population. I tell them, so the next time your latte comes back and it's 15 degrees below the desired temperature, check yourself before you start complaining again. Be grateful that you have the car and the air conditioning to go with the job and the family and the home and the education and the healthcare system and the holy shit. Years ago, I was talking to a guy on my university campus, and we were being a bit philosophical, and he said, the punchline was, we're rich. Everybody on this campus is rich. And it's a perspective thing, and it's a gratitude thing, and if you don't stop and shut up every once in a while and think and open your eyes and be aware of your surroundings, you don't realize it, and you can get bogged down and Stephanie trapped in your own head and bummed about the song that got stolen from you instead of thinking about the other tracks you're going to put on the EP, and that something else is going to come in and fill that slot. And we can get stuck so easily.
Yeah.
If we have that, whether it's meditation or if it's a sign over your front door or over the recording studio or something you have hung over the toilet at Kunjani, or, you know, whatever it is, some kind of reminder of how blessed or how fortunate we are can really help facilitate that gratitude on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great that that's part of y'all's practice.
And the meditation piece, I love that. Steph, you meditate sometimes too, right?
No, I've always wanted to, but I just don't know how. And I know I just need to sit down and do it, but it's literally been years of me saying I will meditate, and I don't. I've actually started coloring a lot, like adult coloring books, and I'm obsessed with doing that. And so that's sort of meditative for me. And I also read a lot. Like sometimes it's unhealthy because I read like a lot to where it's like antisocial. So sort of meditative in some way.
Well, the book, I wanted to ask you if you had I'll give you a minute to think about if there's a book that you'd like to recommend, because I think just big thinkers and dreamers like us have some cool books on our bookshelves, I think. It's nice to always know what people are reading. But I was going to say, from a meditation standpoint, Kayla, I love what you said, because it's way too often. I actually just posted about this like last week. I was like, my favorite part of my meditation practice is that it doesn't have to be every morning for half hour sitting on your meditation pillow. Now, I don't know if Danielle is still watching. She popped in at the beginning. She and her husband are like master, like they get up at like 3:45 in the morning and they meditate from 4 to 6 a.m. and they do a very specific program through Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is a really cool, like you learn all about the sound frequencies of healing and all that. Like, I believe that all that stuff can be very beneficial if you are committed to doing it that way. You don't have to do it that way. That's like super extreme on this end. For me, I'm the same as you, and it makes all the difference. We were literally sitting on that couch yesterday, and Matt was like, I'm not feeling it right now. The breathing is off. I feel not good. I'm tense here. And we both closed our laptops. I said, let's meditate. So we started with a 15-minute one. We rolled into a 20-minute one. And then later on last night, I had a book club meeting with Danielle and her people, and we did another 15-minute one. So I ended up almost an hour yesterday of all these different kinds of meditations, and they each served a different purpose. I went to a different place in my mind with each one. And I just love also reminding myself and others that, like, there's no such thing as a bad meditation. If you took the time to stop and just think, That's all. You can't have done yourself a disservice. It's not possible.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like we get so caught up in feeling like there's so much to be done, right? And so little time. There's no way I could take an hour to just sit and do nothing. That's so much time lost, you know? But that's just not the case, especially when you're applying it to yourself, you know, when it's only to make yourself better and to put you in a position where you can further accomplish the things that you need to do in order, you know, to move forward like with a clear head. It's so important. And, you know, like I said, time is just something that really we've made up. And so when you can just relax for a second and let everything move around you, but keep yourself still, there really is great power in that. And it doesn't have to be with with shaman music on YouTube. Like you can just chill for a second. It feels really good to be like, okay, now I can move forward calmly and not rush. So it's like, I love it.
We're going to do a future episode on meditation for sure, but my favorite tool that has worked the best for me, I've done 3 years worth of like active education on meditation stuff. There's a woman here in Naples named Angela Sanders who owns a company called Mindful Minds, and she does meditation classes, which that's where I started. It was super helpful to learn just about like the basics and what the science behind it is and whatever. But really, I found this app last year that I would suggest to anybody. Well, there's this app called Mind Valley where you can go to get like a million different classes about like, hippy dippy woo woo type stuff is what I like to say. Cause really it is, it's like stuff that like energy, sound healing and like all the like alternative things. But there's this one called The M Word, and it's by this woman named Emily Fletcher, and she owns a meditation school in New York City called Ziva Meditation. And she's so real about it. She's like, listen, you don't have to be deaf, dumb, and blind. You're not a caveman, like who needs to sit like this and not do anything while you're meditating. Like, actually, you should be in your environment and you should allow it to guide this like moment for you. And it's our favorite meditation by far. Every single time I noticed after I finally felt like I really got the flow of it, I've learned my body has these cues. I actually fall into this state, and then she has you get out of it because she has you do this mantra, and my head always goes like at the exact same rate every time, and I'm like, it's so creepy. I'm not even doing that. It's the best. So anyway, highly recommend. Stephanie, tell me a book. Give me a book from your.
One of my all-time favorite books is The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love that book. I've read it a bunch of times and I recommend it to anyone.
That's Eckhart, right? Is that Eckhart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think even if you've read it, it's not an easy read, but it's kind of a quicker read that I feel like you can get different things each time you read it. I think I just read too fast in general that I like to go back and then I.
All right, you're bragging about your reading skills now, and
well, it's not a skill.
We're readers.
Yeah, we get it, Steph. You read.
I feel that though. I have to reread a lot because I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to digest the information so much that I'm like, okay. And then I realize I didn't really digest it. So I'm like, let me go back and read it.
I need to.
And that particular book, The Power of Now, and any of Eckhart Tolle's stuff, or anybody who's in that kind of school, if you can get one thing from any one of those books that you feel like resonates with you, the chances are it's going to have potentially a lifelong impact.
Right.
Eckhart Tolle is unbelievable, and now is all there is, and there's presence, and there's, especially regarding anxiety, you got to stay out of the past, stay out of the future, got to stay right now.
Right.
Yeah, and he's got there are some one-liners in that book that if you just went through and highlighted 10 things, it's way worth the price of the book.
Have any of you read Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
I've heard, dude, so many people have told me to read that, and I don't know how it is that I haven't. Who Moved My Cheese? Yeah, it's what's the brief synopsis on that? Isn't that business focused, or is it not?
No, actually, my girlfriend read it, and she was like, "You have to read this book." And so I'm 2 pages in, but she's just filled me in on the whole book. Steph, if you want to go for it,
I read it. Honestly, I read it like a long time ago.
Oh my God, can we book club it? Us? Because you're only 2 pages in. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it, girl, because I'm so excited about this one.
Okay, I've been needing to be a little better about my reading, so I'm in. Who moved my cheese? We're doing it. All right. If anybody who's watching, because we've had a pretty consistent little audience here, which we appreciate everybody who's come out. Obviously, this will be posted on YouTube and will be available here on Facebook after for people to indulge at their leisure. But if you have any questions while you're here, feel free to ask. What I'd like to do real quick is our friend Brad, really sweet dude, gave us these pod decks. He has his own little podcast up in North Carolina where he interviews local businesses, but he's been helping us out with things, and he sent us this surprise deck of interesting questions to ask your podcast audience to keep things interesting. So hopefully this was already interesting, but I'm going to ask you, should we ask the same question to both of you, or should you each get your own question? I don't know. Let's ask this question and decide who wants. Okay. If you were stranded on a desert island and you could choose one person to keep you company, oh, you're about to piss a bunch of people off, who would it be? And what about one animal?
Steph, you got to answer this because my answer is awful.
One animal, obviously my dog, Jasmine, 100%, obviously. And then I would also take my sweet fiance, Nico, on the island. Obviously.
Okay, your answer was easy.
Very smart and reliable, and we would probably survive.
He's very smart and reliable. Reliability, top thing you need when stranded on a desert island.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to sleep or try and fend for themselves. I think they would help you. And
I could imagine Nico fishing. He'd be like in the ocean. Like,
too. I would also be able to contribute to our survival, but it would be nice to have someone.
Not that I doubt that you couldn't spearfish. I could just like imagining Nico doing it for some reason really seemed right to me. It just felt right. Okay, Kayla, do you want a different one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just say myself.
Let's not start any fights today. Okay, so what's something that people think makes them look cool but actually makes them look ridiculous?
Ooh, good one.
Okay, this might be really awful, but I just really don't like when people like broadcast going out and like giving homeless people food or like giving them clothes and stuff. Like I like when people make it aware, like, hey, there's a population over here that really needs help. If you guys want to help, whatever, XYZ, I totally understand shedding light on like certain areas or whatever, but it's just, I don't know, something really bothers me when someone gets on Facebook and they're like, oh, saw someone on the corner today and I just had to give them my sandwich. I don't know. I think they think it, I don't know. I just don't like it because it's like, you should do something like that. Like when you see someone in need, you should help them. If you want to bring awareness to help, to help people, I totally get it. But it doesn't make you look cool when you're like, oh my God, I had the best burger today, but gave it away to somebody who was on the street asking for food. Like, I don't know. That's probably really rude to say, but like,
no, we're nodding our heads.
There's a certain way to do it, but I just think like if you're organizing to go help people or something and you want people to come along, totally, but you just randomly gave somebody a bottle of water and you want people to be like, wow, you're so great. Like, come on.
There's a difference between fishing for compliments. Cool. Yeah, there's a difference between fishing for compliments and then just being authentically like a good person. I hear you on that. This is unrelated, but I just need you to know, I don't think I ever told you the video that you did where you were like randomly stopping people in the street and asking them to like say whatever word it was. I can't remember. That was so funny, dude. Yeah. I was dying. You need to do another version of that when we can be.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I gotta get back onto that. I love talking to random strangers and seeing how they react to me just running up on them in the street. It's so much fun.
Yeah, you do very well at that. Cool. Well, thanks for playing. That was super fun. Listen, this was amazing. Thank y'all for coming. Next week, we will have, our episode will be about integrity. and investment are our two topics for next week. Why investment? It's kind of a play on two things. I've got two of our favorite real estate agents coming on to join us. Two super good friends, somebody who I've known since high school, who just kills it, and recently decided, like, I'm also going to run marathons, because why not? And he's got 3 kids at home, and he's just got like a real hustle going. And so investing in himself personally, as well as I'm not going to be able to help myself asking questions about the real estate market and what people think are going to happen coming out of this. So I know we're going to talk about that. So actual real investments. And then we just sold our first home in North Carolina first home that we bought 4 years ago, or 4 years ago now. And we just, thank you, our realtor over there, her name is Chesson. She's fantastic. She sold it for us, and we had 3 offers within 48 hours.
Wow.
So in chatting with her, she also has a really great head on her shoulders and has a lot of, we actually got into a really good, authentic conversation about integrity. And I was like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And so she and VJ are going to join us next week at 11:30 a.m. here on Facebook Live. And we had some nice little comments come through. Steph, make sure you check it out. Catherine Iliakis, I think it is, had some very nice things to say about you and your mom, which does not surprise me, because you and your mom are the best. And Kayla, you've got to get your butt down here. We'll plan out some fun down here in Southwest Florida for you as soon as you can. And then Steph, we'll all have to go visit Denver also when we can. But we're just super grateful for you guys. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this was great.
Yay. And I don't know when our book club starts exactly, but I'm going to start like a group text between us, and then we're just going to, who moved my cheese? I'm getting right on it.
Let's do it.
Yay. All right. Good. Happy Monday. Good. I don't know what I was going to say, like good riddance to you or something, but like that's not a nice thing to say to people. Good talk. I got to go. It just got really awkward. I was doing so well.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye, you guys. Thank you so much. Bye. And then we got to go to Zoom. Yay. Yay. That was awesome, you guys. So Stephanie's still here. Okay, no, Stephanie's gone.